Hey everyone, welcome back to John's Watch. Today I'm taking a look at a new game called RailGods of Hysterra. This game was released on Steam in early access on May 7th, 2025. Its regular price is $25.99 Canadian, or a regional equivalent, and it's developed by Troglodytes Games and published by Digital Vortex Entertainment. The description says, embark on a co-op survival journey for 1 to 5 players, that's an interesting amount, 1 to 5, through a post-apocalyptic Lovecraftian world. Command and evolve a living monstrous train, craft weapons, build a mobile base, gain powers, and face the great old ones. Explore an ever-changing world, hold on to your sanity, and ascend to godhood. So that's a little dense, I guess. The Steam tags are pretty good. The 4 that show up are early access, survival, base building, and crafting. Usually those tags are kind of a death knell for a game. You know, as soon as you see early access, base building, survival crafting, I mean, I'm not interested. But this one had a bit of an interesting spin on a very tired genre. As the description said, and as you've possibly seen by now, most of the game, or a good chunk of the game, is set on and orbits around this monstrous Lovecraftian train. You've got this kind of living train that you have to keep fed and fueled, and in return it transports you across the rail network of this land, and it takes you to different locations, and it acts as your transport, and it also acts as your base, and you can expand it. One of the earliest quests was to go find this lighthouse keeper, I think, and he basically just gave you another flatbed train car that you could then build walls on and build workstations in. When you're not on the train, you're running around in these smaller individual localized maps, and then it becomes a little bit like, kind of reminded me of V Rising a little bit. There's combat, there's resource gathering, and in a nutshell, that's kind of the basic loop. You use your train to go to locations, basically the conductor of the train, and because I was playing solo, I had the conductor role. If you're playing with other people, I believe you each select a role, and only the conductor of the train can start and stop it and choose where to go, pretty much. But as the conductor, you basically say, you use the UI at the top to say, let's start, and you can speed up to 1, 2, or 3 times speed. And then when you get close to a landmark or something on your little UI at the top, you say stop, and everybody can get off the train. And so you use the train to get between these different landmarks, gather a bunch of resources, try and finish your quests, which are over on the left of your screen, and repeat, pretty much. And you use all the resources that you gather to, like I said, expand your train and build up your train, build new workbenches and crafting stations, things like that. I played for an hour and a half, and I think there are the bones of something pretty cool here. Like, it is like I said, quite an interesting twist on a very tired genre. But although there are interesting bones here, I think that's about all there is right now. It is very bare bones. It is very early access. At the time of recording, it's been in early access for 3 days. You know, it is going to feel early access. And so if you're looking for just, you know, the one sentence overall review, this is, like I say about a lot of early access games, it's fine. It's just one to keep an eye on until it's done early access, pretty much. It even says at the bottom of the screen most of the time, like, this is work in progress. There's going to be like placeholder stuff. Totally fine for early access, in my opinion. And yeah, the bones of an interesting game are there, but I definitely saw quite a few limitations, even in just the first hour and a half. For example, the first 3 locations I stopped my train at, the maps were identical, even down to, I noticed that there was this little patch of mold in the exact same place in all 3 locations. And I was like, is there just one map layout for this whole game? And then luckily the 4th one was different. But yeah, maybe there's only 2 map layouts for this game so far. I do think the The combination of camera controls and combat feels awful, and I think that needs to be tweaked. As you can see, you've got this top-down camera angle, and you can rotate the camera. And to do that, you hold down your scroll wheel, your middle mouse button, and move it side to side. And that's how you rotate it. And maybe I'm just not used to using the middle mouse button so much, but I found that control scheme to move the camera just awful. It made me try to remember how Don't Starve handled the camera. And I feel like you just did like the arrow keys, like left and right, to rotate it, 90 degrees or something like that. Because it's kind of a similar camera angle to Don't Starve, a little bit. But yeah, trying to move the camera outside of combat was pretty awful for me. And then as soon as you got into combat, it just became a nightmare to try and aim, because you have to use left click to attack. You'd use right click to attack with a ranged weapon if you had it. And then you're also trying to do middle click this whole time to make sure that you're aiming at the enemies. Just felt awful. I don't know what they need to do to the camera controls to make it better, but something needs to be done, because yeah, it does not feel good to control. The combat is also pretty bare bones. I did find that I was able to stun lock some enemies by just hitting them with a spear or whatever weapon I had over and over. There's not a ton of hit feedback when you as the player get damaged. So sometimes I would like look up at my UI in the top left and see my health, and I was down at like 25%, and I was like, where did that damage even come from? And I'd have to rapidly spam use all the bandages in my inventory to start healing myself up. So that needs a little bit of work. The game does have a dodge roll, which is pretty good. Maybe why it makes me think of V-Rising a little bit. The dodge roll unfortunately has a cooldown, and you can see when it's on cooldown in the bottom left, but that part of the UI is not super visible. So when I first started the game and I was, first getting into combat and I was rolling, when I tried to roll again, over top of my head would be like, dodge roll on cooldown for another 2.8 seconds. And I was like, really? That's the best way you're going to tell me it's on cooldown? And then, like, eventually, a few minutes later, I did notice that it was in the bottom left, but it's not very visible. I don't know. I'm sure they can tweak that one somehow. That's probably decently easy to change. You also have a magic spell on, by default it's on R. You just aim and then press R and you shoot a magic dark spell. Pretty strong. That was the best way of dealing with pretty much every enemy except for like the very basic guys with sticks. I did find even an hour and a half in, a resource management was getting to be an absolute nightmare. My inventory was constantly full of all different kinds of crafting materials. My chests were completely full of all different kinds of crafting materials. I had, I think, like 5 crafting stations already, and it was just so overwhelming. I don't know if they need to like scale back the crafting systems or something, but like just an hour and a half in reminded me of why I hate crafting games now. Because it is just juggling resources constantly. The game does have a lot of good quality of life stuff with the crafting. You can throw everything in your inventory into a chest, and then, as far as I can tell, when you go to a crafting bench, the crafting benches know to access the chest inventory, even if they're not that close. So I was able to just throw everything into a chest and go to the crafting benches and queue up whatever I wanted. So that was great. You know, if I had to actually micromanage my inventories to make sure I had my 6 logs in my inventory and then go over to the logging bench, that would have been a nightmare, and I probably would have quit a lot earlier. So that was a great quality of life feature. But yeah, the crafting was still getting overwhelming. Maybe it's better with more people? Like it says you can play 1 to 5 players. I did ask Taylor if he had been sent a review code for this, because I thought that would be fun to play together, but he hadn't, so I just played it by myself. I don't know if it would have been better in co-op, because you do have to read a lot of tutorials at the start of this game. There's a lot of text boxes, which I think you do need. There's, even though it is still quite early, there's still a lot of systems in place. And the tutorials were pretty good. They were like a little dense at times, but they were spread apart decently well. So on the Steam page, because it's in early access, the devs have to answer a bunch of questions from Valve. One of them is approximately how long will this game be in early access for? And their answer was they're targeting a full release roughly in 6 to 12 months. I think even 12 months is probably going to be pushing it. There's no way this game is ready in 6 months. Like I said, I do think the bare bones are there, but I think already some systems need reworking, and I think a few changes need to be made for sure. But I do think this is a very promising game, and maybe that's an extra good recommendation as someone who really dislikes all 4 of those tags: survival, crafting, base building, early access. I could see myself coming back to this once it's done early access. So I think that's all I'll say for my review for now. Like I said, I only played an hour and a half, but I do think this is very promising. I just think it needs quite a bit of work, which is completely understandable 3 days into early access, honestly. I think they've got a very promising game on their hands here, and I really hope they stick with it and listen to the community, which, as I understand from some Steam reviews, they already have been, so that's very promising as well. There you go, that was a look at RailGods of Hysterra. Thank you guys very much for watching. Make sure you leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys later. Bye!